Need for separation of powers between legislative, judicial and executive. PM agrees to formation of 1MDB Special Task Force. You're watching the evening edition of News on 2. I'm Adrian Seat. Malaysia's debt has reached an alarming 1 trillion ringgit. The shocking revelation was made by Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad during his first address at the monthly assembly with civil servants under the Prime Minister's department today.
Kita dapati keuangan negara umpamanya sudah dicabul dengan begitu besar sehingga sekarang ini kita menghadapi masalah penyelesaian hutang yang sudah meningkat kepada trilion ringgit. Ini tidak pernah dilakukan oleh kita. Dahulu kalau kita ada hutang jumlahnya tidak lebih daripada 300 bilion ringgit, tetapi sekarang sudah meningkat lebih daripada 1 trilion ringgit. Bagaimana kita nak selesaikan hutang ini bergantung kepada usaha kita dan daya fikir kita.
The Pakatan Harapan chairman also expressed his disappointment at the loss of respect for Malaysia amongst Commonwealth countries. Therefore, Tun Dr. Mahathir said his main task now was to improve the country's image internationally. In line with this, he said it was important to ensure the separation of power between the legislative, executive and the judiciary. In order to rebuild and restore Malaysia to its former glory, Tun Dr. Mahathir has urged civil servants to give their undivided cooperation to the ruling government. He pointed out that civil servants should always place the law above all else to help ensure Malaysia is on the road to recovery. The Prime Minister also said the wrongdoings of civil servants from the previous administration will be dealt with.
Pentadbir memainkan peranan yang amat penting sekali. Mereka mestilah terdiri daripada anggota yang betul-betul berpegang kepada ikrar mereka untuk berkhidmat untuk negara tanpa dipesongkan oleh lain-lain perkara. Umpamanya kalau kita disuruh lakukan sesuatu yang bertentangan dengan undang-undang negara, maka menjadi tanggungjawab pentadbir tidak menerima sesuatu yang salah.
The Prime Minister stressed that Malaysia's quest to become a high-income nation would mean nothing if the people's purchasing power did not increase, adding that the most important thing now is to ensure a strong currency. Now, despite the need to implement changes in a nation's governance, the government will utilize the existing institutions in a more efficient manner without increasing the cost of administration. Tun Dr. Mahathir noted that changes are crucial for the nation's continuous progress, especially in the areas of development, economic growth and the people's welfare.
Akan perlihatkan perubahan-perubahan, tetapi perubahan-perubahan ini akan dilakukan hanya setelah dikaji dengan mendalam akan keperluan perubahan-perubahan ini. Saya tidak boleh jelaskan apa dianya perubahan yang akan dilakukan kerana di waktu ini kita belum dapat maklumat yang cukup untuk membuat perubahan ke arah yang baru.
Tun Dr. Mahathir also stressed that administrators need to upgrade their knowledge, especially in the area of technology, to keep up with the demands of an industrial nation. Hence, the task of the new administration will be to revive the country and make it respected again throughout the world. PKR President Dato' Sri Dr. Wan Azizah Wan Ismail led the lineup of 13 key ministers to swear in before the Yang di-Pertuan Agong today. The 13 ministers include 5 announced previously and are based on a consensus reached amongst the 4 parties in the ruling coalition, the Pakatan Harapan. Dato Sri Dr. Wan Azizah was sworn in as Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Women and Family Development. This was followed by the swearing in of other ministers led by Tan Sri Muhyiddin as Home Affairs Minister, DAP Secretary General Lim Guan Eng, Finance Minister, and Amanah President Muhammad Sabu, Defence Minister. They were followed by DAP Deputy Chairman Gobind Singh Deo as Communications and Multimedia Minister, Dr. Mazli Malik, Education Minister, PKR Wanita Chief Dato Zuraida Kamaruddin, Housing and Local Government Minister. Seremban MP Anthony Loke Siu Fok was then sworn in as Transport Minister, DAP Vice Chairman M. Kulasegaran as Human Resources Minister, Parti Amanah Negara Deputy President Salahuddin Ayub as Agriculture and Agro-Based Industry Minister, Amanah's Strategic Director Dr. Zulkifli Ahmad, Health Minister, and Titi Wangsa MP Rina Harun, Rural Development Minister. A special investigation team has been agreed to be formed by Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad to thoroughly probe into the One Malaysia Development Berhad or 1MDB case. Aside from investigating the case, the team will also be tasked to track down and seize assets as well as prosecute people who had committed any criminal activities relating to the management of 1MDB. In a statement released by the Prime Minister's office, the Special Investigation Team will be jointly headed by former Attorney General Tan Sri Abdul Ghani Patail, former Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission or MACC Chief Commissioner Tan Sri Abu Qasim Muhammad, MACC Chief Commissioner Dato Sri Muhammad Shukri Abdul, and former Special Branch Deputy Director Dato Abdul Hamid Badur. The team members will comprise the MACC, the Attorney General's Chambers, the Police, Bank Negara Malaysia, and several lawyers. The team will be responsible in the overall aspect of coordinated investigation, tracking down the money and acquisition of assets that resulted from discrepancies and embezzlement of 1MDB fund that is kept and invested locally and abroad. The team will also be responsible to get the cooperation from all foreign enforcement agencies, including the United States, Switzerland, Singapore, Canada, and other countries to assist in the investigation. In a related development, former Prime Minister Dato Sri Najib Tun Razak is expected to give his statement to the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission or MACC tomorrow to facilitate investigations into the case involving SRC International Sdn Berhad. SRC International was a subsidiary of One Malaysia Development Berhad or 1MDB before it was placed under the Ministry of Finance in 2012. On January the 25th of 2016, the media reported that Attorney General Tan Sri Muhammad Apandi Ali confirmed that Dato Sri Najib had not committed any criminal offences relating to the case involving 2.6 billion ringgit ending up in his account and SRC International. Tan Sri Muhammad Apandi was reported as saying that based on all the facts and evidence, he as the public prosecutor was satisfied that there was no criminal offence committed by Dato Sri Najib in relation to the 3 investigation papers. In this regard, an investigation paper related to the 2.6 billion ringgit as well as 2 other investigation papers related to the SRC International were returned to the MACC and were ordered closed. Meanwhile, police maintained a tight security presence around the private residence of Dato Sri Najib Tun Razak in Jalan Langkat Duta in Kuala Lumpur today. However, 7 unknown individuals entered the residence at 10:25 a.m, followed by a black MPV about 10 minutes later. Meanwhile, Dato Sri Shukri Abdul today clocked in as the newly appointed Chief Commissioner of the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission or MACC. He is no stranger to the Commission, having served the anti-graft body for 32 years before retiring in 2015. Dato Sri Shukri was given a warm welcome by the MACC staff led by the Commission's Deputy Chief Commissioner for Operations, Dato Sri Azam Baki. When asked by reporters if he was happy to return to MACC, Dato Sri Shukri noted that it was tough for him. After clocking in at 10:29 a.m., Datuk Sri Shukri met with MACC officers for a briefing session. He also confirmed that he will speak to reporters tomorrow to share interesting stories. Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad named Muhammad Shukri as MACC Chief Commissioner to replace Tan Sri Zulkifli Ahmad, who sought to have his contract with the MACC terminated and had reported himself to the Attorney General's office. The Sultan of Selangor, Sultan Sharafuddin Idris Shah, has consented for Selangor Menteri Besar Datuk Sri Muhammad Azmin Ali to take up the post of Minister of Economic Affairs. The private secretary to the Sultan, Datuk Muhammad Munir Bani, said Datuk Sri Azmin would, however, remain the State Menteri Besar temporarily until a new candidate is formally appointed. The Sultan was informed by Datuk Sri Azmin that he has agreed to accept the portfolio of Minister of Economic Affairs and that the decision was made after the latter was given explanation and confirmation by the Prime Minister of his jurisdiction and scope of duties under the new ministry. Datuk Sri Azmin is required to suggest a list of names for the new Selangor Menteri Besar for the Sultan to study and his consent before an appointment is made. On Friday, Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad announced the full list of his proposed cabinet after an audience with the Yang di-Pertuan Agong Sultan Muhammad V and named Datuk Sri Azmin as the Minister of Economic Affairs. The PKR Deputy President on Saturday said he was ready to let go of his State Menteri Besar post if he was needed to assist the new federal government. Former Pulau Pinang Chief Minister Lim Guan Eng and businesswoman Pang Lee Kun are to file their respective representations to the soon-to-be appointed Attorney General. The move is for the corruption charges against them pertaining to the purchase of a bungalow at below market value to be dropped. During the mention of the case before High Court Judge Dato' Hadaria Said Ismail, Lim's counsel Ram Kapral Singh said he would be filling the representation soon as possible and so applied for the case to be postponed to a later date. An application was also filed by Pang's lawyer Dato' V. Sitambaran on similar grounds. Lim pleaded not guilty on June 30th of 2016 to 2 counts of corruption over the conversion of agricultural land to residential status and purchase of a plot and bungalow at below market value. Lim faces a second charge of using his position to obtain a plot of land and bungalow at number 25 Jalan Pinhon on July 28th of 2015 from businesswoman Pang Lee Kun for 2.8 million ringgit at below market value. Lim and businesswoman Pang Lee Kun pleaded not guilty to the charges against them on March the 26th. The Sales and Service Tax, or SST, is set to make a comeback in the Malaysian tax scene after it was scrapped 3 years ago to make way for the Goods and Services Tax, or GST. Prior to that, the SST had been in place for 40 years. As the government removes one tax and replaces it with another, the question is, will prices go down or will they remain status quo?
Benda ni bukan boleh buat dalam masa yang cepat. So sebab tu perlu ada satu maklumat daripada kerajaan, khusus daripada Kementerian Kewangan, bila nak dilaksanakan SST tu dan berapa kadar yang akan dikenakan. Dan sama ada kadar tu kita standard rate untuk dua-dua ataupun kadar yang berbeza 10 dengan 6. Tapi kita kena ambil kira juga kadar yang diletakkan ni akan beri kesan kepada hasil dekat atas juga. Kan kalau kita letak kadar yang rendah, cukup dah untuk menampung hasil tu. Kalau kita letak kadar yang tinggi sangat, harga barang macam mana?
Another major concern amongst analysts and economists is how the government would plug the anticipated shortfall from the zero rating of the GST. Hardly a week since its surprise victory in the 14th general election, the Pakatan Harapan government announced that it would remove the unpopular GST and replace it with the SST. Last Thursday, the Finance Ministry clarified that the GST would be zero-rated from June the 1st and that the government would be reintroducing the SST at a later unspecified date. The Financial Markets Committee, or FMC, and Bank Negara have announced the operationalization of segregated securities accounts at the Large Value Payment System Real-Time Electronic Transfer of Funds and Securities System, or RENTAS, operated by Payments Network Malaysia Sdn Bhd, PayNet. This is part of the measures to further develop the country's bond market that have been announced in the second series of initiatives by the FMC and the Central Bank on April the 13th of last year. With the appropriate system infrastructure in place, investors will be provided with greater access to information on the Malaysian bond market, hence facilitating a more informed decision-making and better risk management. Information such as investor type and flows in the government bond market for both non-resident and resident investors will be made available in the Bond Info Hub website on a more regular and timely basis. With a system-based implementation, there will be better efficiency and less reporting burden for investors, which will lower the cost of investing in the Malaysian bond market. The Rentas Segregated Securities Account will be operationalized in 2 phases, with Phase 1 commencing today, while full compliance is on Phase 2 by September 30th to allow for efficient transitioning into the segregated account rules. The Malacca State Government will review the service of its contract staff in the civil service in efforts to ensure its effectiveness. Malacca Chief Minister Adli Zahari said the state government is currently in the process of evaluating the level of competency, capacity and capability of contract staff before continuing with the restructuring. In administrating the new government, Adli Zahari said the contract-based employees, being regarded as the backbone, were directly involved together with civil servants in the power transition process and are also a crucial group as they draft and implement policies that determine the direction and future of a government or society. Adli Zahari said they will not be reducing them, but it will involve transferring and improvising their weaknesses with various training. He further added that the welfare of those involved would be amongst the matters that will be taken into consideration. The Malacca Chief Minister said this after attending the Malacca State Government monthly gathering in Aikoro, Malacca. In other news, the Terengganu Malaysian Maritime Enforcement Agency or MMEA yesterday seized 2 foreign fishing boats which had encroached into the Malaysian waters between 73 to 77 nautical miles off Kuala Terengganu. The boats were carrying a marine catch, 3,000 litres of diesel, boats and fishing equipment with an estimated total value of 1.5 million ringgit. According to Terengganu MMEA Director Captain Rahim Ramli, both the boats were registered in Vietnam. Also arrested were 19 crew and a skipper aged between 14 and 54, all without any valid identification document. The case is now being investigated under Section 15, Subsection 1, Subsection A, 1986 for trespassing and fishing in national waters without permission from the Director of Fisheries, not having a valid license, and Section 6, Subsection 1, Subsection C of the Immigration Act for not having any identification nor valid work permits. Now, the case is also being investigated under the Malaysia Anti-Corruption Commission Act after the skipper attempted to bribe an officer a sum of 1,000 ringgit for each boat in return for their release. Captain Rahim also asked for the public's cooperation to report any information or misconduct occurring in Malaysian waters online at MERS 999 or call the Terengganu Maritime Operations Centre at 09 622 4357. The Malaysian Thomas Cup team got off to a brilliant start in the finals when they whipped Russia 5-0 in the opening Group D tie at the Impact Arena and enhanced their chance for a quarter-final spot. Only the top 2 teams advanced to quarter-finals. Skipper and world number 7 Dato' Lee Chong Wei started the ball rolling for Malaysia by beating Vladimir Malkov in straight games 29-9, 21-6. It took the Malaysian champion just 30 minutes to defeat the Russian world number 51. Go Visham Tan Wee Kiong then upstaged world number 10 Vladimir Ivan Sozonov with a straight sets win. The Malaysian world number 16 pair won the first set 21-18 but faced stiffer resistance from the Russian pair in the second set before winning 21-19. Youngster Lee Jizia, making his first Thomas Cup appearance, capped his cool to win against Sergei Sirant 21-13, 21-16. Scratch pair Aaron Chia Teo Yi also justified the coach's selection when the duo, playing for the first time in the finals, blew away Evgenij Dremin Denis Grachev 21-16, 21-9 to give Malaysia a comfortable 4-love lead. Iskandar Zulkarnain Zainuddin sealed the tie with an easy 21-9, 21-12 win over Rodion Alimov. Malaysia will play Algeria tomorrow and will take defending champions Denmark on Wednesday to determine the group winners. And that concludes this evening's edition of News on 2. In our top story, need for separation of powers between legislative, judicial and executive to restore Malaysia to its former glory. Join us again at 12:30 tomorrow afternoon for more updates. Until then, I'm Adrian Seat. Good night. Thanks for watching.